So what exactly is the cytoplasmic inheritance? Let's understand that. Remember, there is genes or DNA present in the cytoplasm in the form of the mitochondria, chloroplast. So all that genetic material is called as plasmon. So remember, there is plasmon, just like we say genome. In the same manner, the opposite genome is present in the nucleus, so it is a component of nuclear inheritance. And plasmon is present in the cytoplasm. It could be in the chloroplast or it could be in the mitochondria. And plasmon is the unit of the cytoplasmic inheritance. So please remember, this is the that means there are some characters or genes controlling the characters which are present even in the mitochondria and chloroplast, and they are to be transferred to the next generation in the through the plasmon, and that is the component of the cytoplasmic inheritance. Please remember one thing, as we talked about in the first chapter of this 12th class, we learned about the contribution of male and female. You remember, I have already told you that the size in the case of isogametes will be same. Then the size is going to be different in the case of the anisogamy. And finally, a very big one will be stationary and a very small one will be the male, and this is the female and this one is the male gamete. So one thing is very clear here, that in the lower form equal cytoplasm is contributed by the isogametes. Unequal female gamete contributes more cytoplasm and male contributes very less cytoplasm, and in this case almost all the cytoplasm is contributed by a female. A very less, or you can say zero, cytoplasm is contributed by the male. That means there is more contribution of female in which concept? Cytoplasmic inheritance. So cytoplasm of the female gamete is going to become the cytoplasm of the zygote in the future. So whatever features or characters controlling gene are present in the cytoplasm of the egg, they are controlled by now not male but by the female parent. So let's understand how these two are different. The cytoplasmic inheritance is different from the normal nuclear inheritance. The basic of this difference is the unequal contribution made by the father and the mother, or you can say male parent and the female parent. Female contributes maximum, or you can say more, to the cytoplasmic inheritance. And the next is zygote receive most of its cytoplasm from the egg, or this already I have explained. So zygote receives the maximum cytoplasm from the egg, or you can say female contributes the maximum, or there is no or very little cytoplasm received from the sperm. So these points you have to remember, and remember how these two differ again. Nuclear inheritance will give you similar results always. We have learned it in the Mendel's experiment, except for the sex linked character. Otherwise nuclear inheritance will give you same result by reciprocal cross. But when cytoplasmic inheritance is talked about, reciprocal cross will not give you same result, because it's the always female controlling it. It is something like the sex chromosome only, that nuclear inheritance will give you same result in the reciprocal cross, except for sex chromosome, X chromosome. And same manner, cytoplasmic inheritance also will never give you same result in the reciprocal cross, because the cytoplasm of the female is important, not the male is important. This brings us now to the next topic, and that is the mutations. So it's a huge topic, and it's important because in the next chapter also you will be understanding more things and examples regarding mutation. So now let's start. First of all, why mutations are important. So we all know what exactly is variation, and we have learned already that variations come more in the sexual reproduction, and variations come less in the cases of the asexual reproduction. Variations do come in asexual, and those variations are because of mutation. So in the first chapter, when I gave you details of the asexual and sexual comparisons and mitosis and meiosis comparisons in the 11th class, we have already learned variations are the key point for evolution. Variations are the key point for adaptation. So variations may occur by two methods. One method is recombination. And what is recombination? The same genetic material is there, it is only shuffled. That means when we talk about crossing over, we are talking about recombination, and we never know which gamete carrying which combination will fertilize the which female gamete. So that is also recombination, because it is all chance factor. So recombination is a continuous method of variation, because they are always formed. But remember, recombination will not bring something new to the genetic material. When it comes to mutation, mutation brings something new to the genetic material. And remember, recombination occurs always. That's why it is called as continuous source of variation, because every time there is gametogenesis, during meiosis first, recombination or crossing over will take place. But when it comes to mutation, mutation does not take place always, so it is a discontinuous source of variation. These details we have already done in the beginning of this chapter, if you remember. In the beginning of this chapter, I explained that variations are of two types, somatogenic variation and blastogenic variation. Somatogenic variations are not inherited. They are formed only because of the environmental changes. So they are acquired characters. Blastogenic variations are inherited. So they are they are passed on from generation to generation. And blastogenic variations are continuous variation or discontinuous variation. This I have already discussed in the first day of the classes. So now to the main topic we study, because recombination we have already studied in the 11th class in details, plus in 12th also I have covered the crossing over concept. So now we are left with a huge topic of mutations.